What do you call a secondary narrative on a primary narrative? Or what do you call a dream, a hallucination, or even a nightmare that has been laid on the primary narrative? And here, these are the questions will be answered in this video. Before moving on to the video, let me just give you out the brief overview of the video. First, I will be covering the concept that is hypodiegetic narrative, why it is important, its application, examples, impact on the narrative, and some other comparison with the outer topics. Now, the concept, hypodiegetic narrative. Now, for your easy grasping, I'm just going to divide the word into two. Hypodiegetic. Now, hypo generally means under or beneath. Diegetic generally means the sound coming from the context of the story. But however, in literature, diegetic means anything that happens within the world of the story or anything that happens within the world of the film. Now, let's put it back together. Hypodiegetic. Under the things that are happening within the world of the story. Now, the world of the story that gives out, there has been more to it. There has been a primary layer, as characters and their arcs. Now, let me just put it back together once again. Under the primary setting, and of course, there has been more to it, and the secondary narrative has been introduced, which has been embedded on the primary narrative, and that's hypodiegetic narrative is all about. Why it matters? Now, let's say you're writing a book for the very first time, or you're directing a film for the very first time, and you want to introspect one of your characters, and you can't just throw it away random images or random things on the faces of the audience, because once you've done that, it will confuse the audience and the audience will get annoyed. So in order to avoid it, you need to employ hypodiegetic narrative. Once you employ hypodiegetic narrative, you can introspect the character of your wishes. Now, hypodiegetic narrative also helps to bring out the powerful emotions, the surreal elements of a dream, and it can also explore the troubled mishappenings of a particular character, and that's why hypodiegetic narrative is very important when it comes to storytelling. Now, examples. Have you watched the film Mulholland Drive by David Lynch? Or have you even heard of the short film The Alphabet by the same director, David Lynch? If you haven't heard about it or watched it, do it. I'm sure it will blow your mind, and it's a perfect example for hypodiegetic narrative. Now, let's take Mulholland Drive, the movie, as an example. Now, I'm sorry for those who haven't watched the film yet because I'm just going to spoil it. The movie actually begins with a mysterious woman who eventually befriends another charming woman, and their bond actually develops into a relationship until the director David Lynch wants to bring the cat out of the bag. Yes. Now, the director David Lynch tells us that the things that you have witnessed on the first part of the movie is nothing but a dream of the particular character. And what's more interesting to it is that the dream is the cause of the traumatic experience of the particular actress as she has been working in the film industry. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, here director David Lynch employed hypodiegetic narrative to throw light on the troubled mishappenings of the character. And that's how it is applied, and that's how it works. Yes. Impact. Now, we are still talking about the movie Mulholland Drive. I mean, without the dream part, the story could be simple as this. Two bisexual women leading a happy life, and the story remains plain. But the intention of the director is not that. He wants to introspect the particular character's feelings, and thus he employed hypodiegetic narrative. But in terms of words or in terms of viewing, hypodiegetic narration also adds a mysterious element or mysterious essence to the plot of the story, and as a result, the audience is hooked and will keep on guessing what's going to happen till the very last second. And the impact is that it kind of creates a soft corner or soft space towards a particular character, and the readers or viewers are connected or somehow interlinked to the character, and that's how it impacts, ladies and gentlemen. Comparison. Now, people will get confused with hypodiegetic narrative with extradiegetic narrative. Now, let's talk about that. Let's go back to Toni Morrison's Beloved. I mean, the novel incorporates both the narrative techniques. But first, what is extradiegetic narrative? Extradiegetic narrative is nothing but a narrator remains outside of the events of the story. Now, in the novel Beloved, we have Sita and her children, and the story goes back to the troubled mishappenings of her life. And the important part is that the narrator doesn't take part in the happenings of the story. And also, the story has some internal monologues and introspection of the characters, and this hypodiegetic narrative also has been employed in the novel. Now, let's distinguish between extradiegetic narrative and hypodiegetic narrative. Extradiegetic narrative: the narrator remains outside of the events of the story. Hypodiegetic narrative: the narrator is the character of the story. Extradiegetic narrative: it explores the whole story. And hypodiegetic is just an introspection. That's it. Thank you for your patient listening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Godwin. Bye bye. Take care.